Hello and welcome to this little video where I will try to explain how I run my wrestling program or stand-up program when I teach Jiu Jitsu, Gi and Nogi, and it's kind of a very simple approach that I have to it, and I've been doing this for 10-15 years, and I feel like it works really well in terms of getting people confident on their feet. There's something that always annoyed me about Jiu-Jitsu, at least I found weird, is that whenever you walk into a Jiu-Jitsu academy and you look around on the mats, it's like 99% of the time we're laying down, right? Why is that? Why shouldn't it be? I understand if you go IBJJF rules sets, then it doesn't make sense to invest a lot of time in the stand-up part, but for the sake of Jiu-Jitsu, I feel like the stand-up part should be maybe even 50%. I feel like at least when I teach my students, I want them to be as confident on their feet as they are on the ground. It's kind of weird to train a grappling art or like a martial art where you just only train on the ground. It's just a little bit weird. Imagine if you trained kickboxing, but in a world where people were just crawling and you have no idea how to stand them up. It's a little bit the same. I don't teach for self-defense or anything, but I feel that if you want to train so much ground grappling, if you ever need to protect yourself using it in any way or others, then at least you should be very confident in actually getting people to the ground. So that's my approach. I think grappling is grappling. I want people to be able to grapple in all situations, with and without the gi, standing up, sitting down, on their back, on top. That's why I put a lot of emphasis on stand-up wrestling as well. I think the main reason why people don't do it that much is because they're afraid of injury, or maybe because they don't know how to teach it in a certain way, like properly and safely. Hopefully this little video could maybe change that a bit and give you some inspiration for how to safely run a wrestling program to make people confident on their feet. One thing that I find really strange about our approach to teaching the stand-up part of grappling in Jiu-Jitsu is if you consider how much focus there is on positional sparring and positional work on the ground. That's like 95% of what we do. It is what we teach, and it is what we do when we roll. It's positional sparring, and the submissions are kind of the cherry on the top. But for whatever reason, the usual kind of approach in Jiu-Jitsu academies to teach stand-up is there's almost no positional work. It's literally just takedowns. And imagine if we had the same approach on the ground and we just taught submissions and didn't have any heavy emphasis on the positional part. We all know that would not work. So I kind of felt that was weird, and I feel like there should be the same. I mean, we all talk about how important position before submission is, but for some reason, standing up, it's all takedown before position. So that's what I try to change with the way I teach stand-up classes, with a heavy emphasis on position, and the takedowns, or you could say the submissions, so to say, the submissions of standing up is takedowns. That's kind of the natural part that happens if you have good positional wrestling. So the way I teach the class is with a heavy emphasis on position, and if I can make people really good at this, then teaching them takedowns is actually piece of cake, compared to just trying to teach them a double leg or something just out of the blue with no understanding of how to get to a position where they can actually do that takedown. Okay, so let's look at what we actually do in class and how I structure this. And basically the entire class is just this one drill that you're watching. That is like almost all of the training. And the drill is fairly simple, but the main thing about this is that we take out the element of takedowns and we just focus on position. So you can say this is like rolling without submissions, which will still be extremely valuable for ground grappling. And what happens when you take out the takedown part of it? people get less nervous about it. There is less falling, and there's less falling and twisting at the same time. There are less injuries, and people can still go very hard, and they can still have a very hard workout and practice some real positional skills standing up. Apart from this drill, there's a few other things that I kind of use for warm up and for technical input, but primarily the majority of the class is literally just this drill, and I will explain it in details a little bit later. First, let's look at how I will structure a normal 19-minute long class. There'll be a short warm-up, just functional short warm-up, no need to run around, do crazy stuff. And then we'll do 10 minutes of what I'll call like a heavy back drill, which is kind of a wrestling warm-up drill. Then I'll do these are approximate numbers, like another 10 minutes of just like isolated positional drills, like one person is holding and another person is escaping. And that's pretty much the warm-up. So we got 30 minutes of warm-up / drilling. Then I will do 10 minutes section of technical input. And I don't do more than that. I feel like that's more than plenty for people to try and add to the main drill. So I'll do 10 minutes of what I'll just call corrections. So just little things I will correct. And it's usually always something that I saw people do in the prior class, the class before that, the last wrestling class. So I'll take notes at the last wrestling class, and I saw something that I need to correct, and we'll spend like 10 minutes on correcting that. And then the majority of the class is literally just this one drill where we fight for position, no takedowns at that point. And that is all the work. And in the beginning it's pretty hard, but we can, with some work, you can get people conditioned to it, and the better technique you teach them, the longer they can go. So after a few weeks or a month, it's actually quite doable to make people do this nonstop for 45 minutes. At the end of that, I'll do a 5-minute review, just kind of sit down with people and say what was good, what was bad, and then I'll prepare them for what the corrections will be for next class. So it might be, I say that was pretty good, but the way you picked up the single leg, we just need to focus on this. Next class, we'll spend the corrections part of it just on that, and then we throw it right into the drill. So that's how I'll do the class. And you can notice that I don't put aside half an hour to explain details on a double leg, or spend an entire class teaching variations of a single leg. I just do not feel like people can actually ever pull that off. So I spend no more than 10 minutes on just a few little things that I will call corrections. And this is what they try to correct in the main drill. So if you want to look at just the drills we do, if I take out the warm-up and the corrections, then there's a very simple progression of drills that I run. And number 1 is the heavy back drill. I'm going to show them in a second. Number 2 is just hold versus escape. And then I do another version of hold versus escape. And then the main drill, which is the fight for position. And this is all the drills we do. And apart from that, I just throw in a few corrections here and there, and obviously a very, very small light warm-up to get started. So let me just show you the drills one at a time. So the first drill we do primarily as a warm-up, but also to help people try to connect positions. It's no different than, let's say, you want to learn how to pass the guard and then go from side control to mount. You also need to learn how to connect the position standing up. So we'll do this kind of heavy back drill, I'll call it. So one person is a heavy bag, not like a sack of potatoes, but one person will be kind of relaxed and move around, and the other person will just switch positions. And this is also a good opportunity for me to correct a few little things on positions, just to remind people to keep a straight back, lift properly, and then try to go from one position to the other, which I think is an extremely important and overlooked skill for jiu-jitsu people in stand-up wrestling part very often, is that you often just isolatedly practice one double leg or one single leg, but on the ground you will practice how to switch between, go from guard to side control to knee and belly to mount, and you need to do the exact same thing standing up. So I think this heavy back drill makes it a little bit easier for people to just, with no risk of resistance or getting thrown or anything, they just practice going from one position to the other. And it's great for warm-up, just to kind of get people started. The second drill, which is basically the same thing, but it's more that the guy who was the heavy bag before, he's doing a little bit more resisting now. I'm not sure we show it very well in this video, but it's basically just one person is trying to hold the control and the other person is trying to get out. So he's giving a little bit, depending on the level of the training partner, of course, he needs to adjust his level of resistance. So what I tell them is that one person is trying to hold position. It could be just inside control, like we're practicing here. And the other person is trying to coach him by giving him some resistance. Yeah? And then I run them a few minutes and I tell them to change. And that's the first one. Now, what you're actually watching here is drill 3, which is just a little slight variation of the hold versus escape position drill. And basically, it's the same thing. One person is trying to hold the position, the other person is defending slightly. And then at some point, as they fail in holding that position, when they start to lose it, they have to switch to a certain thing that I throw in. And usually this could be drop for a single leg, or maybe even try to lift the opponent. So he's going to try to, so person in the white rash guard is going to try to hold the position, other person is going to try to defend it, and then maybe with, like, since this guy's a beginner, he's going to give him 10% resistance. And as you kind of lose position, as you're about to lose the inside position or whatever position you're practicing, then you have to try and level change and pick up a leg. Or it could be try to get to a position where you just lift the opponent. So that's a good little progression from just kind of isolating one position holding versus escaping. So these are two very similar drills, and I think they're very good for just getting people confident in trying to hold the position first and foremost, and also as they lose it to keep that connection and then switch to something else, like pick up a leg, or let's say we were doing this drill with the front headlock position. Then you're trying to hold the front headlock, and the moment you feel like the person is getting out, you have to spin and control the hip, for instance. So that is kind of just getting people confident in holding positions without too much resistance. So if you look at how I restructured the class, then this would be the first half hour. Quick warm-up, just a bit of stretching and mobility, and then heavy back drill, and then hold versus escape. And I'll just let people do like 1 or 2 minute rounds, and I have a little stopwatch and a whistle, and then I make them switch and switch and switch. And after half an hour, we've done a solid warm-up where they also got to work some positional skills and a few little corrections. And then we go into the corrections part, and that depends very much on like what I wanted to correct from last class. So let's look at a few examples of what corrections could be. I'm not going to go into details, but just to give you an idea of what I would usually do. So here I filmed a few examples of correctional drills I'll do. Maybe if this is one of the first trainings, I'll talk a little bit about wrist fighting, you know, how to break grips and just where to grip, how to rotate the grip out, all that basic stuff. And then I'll just spend 10 minutes on having people drill this, and then we try to implement that in the main drill. Another one could be talking about keeping a straight back, head up, butt down. So we'll talk a little bit about which direction to resist when people are trying to break your posture. So a simple drill could be just this, like walking the hip underneath the head, so that if someone is trying to pull your head down, you make sure you don't break your posture. And obviously a little bit of focus on not making them lean too far back, so that so they still keep a strong base. So that could be a simple drill. We practice this a little bit, trying to break the posture and try to keep the back straight and the head up and the butt down.
So just try this.
I could also spend a little time talking about grips, again depending on the level, but if they're complete beginners, I would probably spend a little time on how to close the grip, and I would make them feel the grip, how people put pressure on the grip with their weight, and how to change it a little bit to make it stronger. That was something that I would spend some time on with beginners. So a simple little drill, we could easily spend 10 minutes on this, and people might say, oh, this is so simple, but the moment they start to do the actual main drill where they fight for position, very, very often they'll have trouble with the proper grip. Another basic thing would obviously be working on head position, always looking for the correct head position. When when wrestling, head position gives you the power in the position. So this is something I put a lot of focus on. And just have them drill this a little bit, feel the difference between if they have the head position and they don't. Try to feel the difference when they're moving around, in what kind of difference that makes for the strength of their position. And that's easy to make people spend like 10 minutes on just working head position and try to fight for it a little bit without any proper resistance, and obviously correct them in how they put the head in the back. Something else I'll spend a lot of time on is just to teach people how to switch between positions. So maybe I'll just talk a little bit about how to go from one position to another, because this is obviously something you need to do a lot in grappling, both standing up and on the ground. So we could spend one class could be on just how to go from one position to another, and a few technical details on that. And I'll stand on the side and just help them a little bit. And here one of our models actually sprained his ankle, so I had to use another one. But here you can see a really simple drill. Just practice how to switch positions, and I'm gonna coach them a little bit on the details of that, like how to place their hands and how to actually do this. But we don't need to do a lot. Just maybe one positional switch is plenty for one class, and then we'll try to implement that in the end. Now, another thing would be maybe practicing not to reach, which is a common difficult thing when people wrestle, is that they want to reach for, let's say, a leg or a body, and I want to help them just get their body close to the part they want to grab first, instead of reaching for it. So we'll do some simple drills of just maybe I'll say that they have to try and get their chest to the leg, and if they can just get their chest to the leg and practice that a little bit, then that will be the focus of the day for the main drill to try and implement. And obviously something that's really important to practice is how to lift properly. So we can do just a few basic lifts, and at that point I'm literally just teaching weightlifting, how to do proper lifts with the straight back and not lift in a way that could be dangerous for your body in the short or long term. So I'll make people practice some lifts, and this is also great physical workout for everyone. So make sure they lift with the head straight. Now, another correction could be just talking about level changes, which is often something that people have a hard time doing. So we'd spend a little bit of time just talking about how to change levels, how to get from the upper body to the hip and to the leg, and keep their back straight, and all this stuff that I would teach them in a regular class. But again, just very short. I'll make up a few little games or simple drills where they have to go from one position to the other and keep their back straight, and just practice that level change to pick up something. And of course, coaching a little bit if I see some mistakes. Another correction class could be just talking about footwork, how to position your footwork, how to reach and how not to reach. Like I'll put a bit of emphasis on not reaching with the front hand, but reaching with the rear hand instead. And just talking a little bit about how to step and not crush your feet and all these basic things. This is basically just a boxing footwork class, but it's pretty much the same that I want people to do in wrestling when they're at a long distance. So this turned out to be kind of a weird drill where they touch each other's heads, but you get the point. Okay, so that's pretty much all that we do. It's a warm-up. We do the heavy back drill a little bit, and then an isolated positional drill, hold versus escape, a few variations of that, and then a few corrections. And the rest is just the main drill of the training. And I will just explain the rules really quick, and then we'll look at it and see how it looks, and then I'll talk a bit about that. The rules are quite simple. Basically, no takedowns allowed, and basically it's a king of the hill kind of training. So the winner will stay in, and the loser go out. And you can win by having 3 seconds control with a closed grip. So you can have like a body lock on the body, like it has to be inside control. So you can have like double underhooks in front or on the side, or maybe even on the back. you can win by having a front headlock. Let's say you snap down your opponent, and I usually say you need to include one arm. So you have to control one head, one arm, keep the head in the middle and close the grip for 3 seconds, and you win. And the last way you can win the round is by lifting your opponent either 1 or 2 feet off the mat for 3 seconds, and you win. And then if you win 3 in a row, then you can go out. So you don't have to be in like 10 rounds if you're the best one there. Also, there is no pause after the referee resets the position. So sometimes we're in a position, maybe both people fall, or we're in a strange position where one person picks up a single leg and the other person has like a front headlock kind of position. So I'll reset, and the moment I reset, there is no pause. You can attack immediately after. You'll see it in a moment. Next in line can attack immediately. There's no hanging out, so you have to pretty much just attack right away. And trash talking and coaching from the people sitting out is mandatory. I want everyone to engage in what's happening on the mat, and it also makes it more fun, and also it's good to practice a little bit of adrenaline and people watching you roll. So I need people to cheer and clap and trash talk and coach the couple that's in. Okay, so let's look at how this drill actually looks as we run it. And this is the majority of the class. It's just this. So I have people lined up by the wall, and 2 people in. If there's a lot of people, I'll have 2 couples in. And whenever one person wins, they will stay in. The loser will go to the back of the line, and it's always the person in front who will go in. So there's no debate like say, if you're standing in front of the line, you can't say like, okay, come on, you go in. This guy looks too big. You have to go in if you're in front of the line. So here we see one person get like a double underhook, close the grip for 3 seconds, and the round is over. Next person come in, and then we just keep going. And what happens when you make people just do this a lot compared to just showing them a lot of takedowns is their positional skills becomes obviously better and better. So imagine someone who's been doing this like once, 2 or even 3 times a week, just doing this drill for like a full class for 6 months or for a year. What kind of skill do they improve? What they get really good at is getting a dominant position, right? Getting inside control, getting head position, or lifting, even just lifting the opponent 1 foot or the entire body. That's the skill they acquire. Right? I don't actually teach them any takedowns at this point. These people are kind of a mix of complete beginners and also a few more kind of experienced guys. But everyone can kind of play this game together. And as you see, there's no real, even though we go high intensity, there's not really any kind of big falls or throwing each other. Since the takedowns are taken out of the game, it's very, very safe to do this drill. Even throwing beginners, it's very, very safe. So you see he lifts the foot for almost 3 seconds. He was a little bit, didn't have enough control, so they keep going. And what these guys and girls gets really, really good at is just to either get a dominant position or to lift the opponent's leg or legs. And if people can get really, really good at that, then teaching them the actual takedown is super easy. It's like if you can teach someone to pass the guard, hold side control, get to mount, take the back, and just hold the back, and just practice that. If someone is really good at that skill, how easy do you think it is to teach them a choke from the back? It is super easy. It's the exact same with stand-up wrestling, is that if you can get people very, very efficient positional-wise, then teaching them the actual takedown is piece of cake. But if you only teach takedowns, then I think you're missing out on an important aspect here. And also, this is extremely fun. People just love doing this. And we can go every Saturday. Everybody's super excited about this. Yeah, as you can see, it's pretty high intensity, but also very, very safe. Yeah? And what happens as people get better and they improve in this positional game is that they somehow actually just accidentally take each other down, even though I never show them how to do a takedown. But because they constantly fight for these dominant positions, takedowns just kind of happen, right? And eventually, when I need to show them how to finish it, it's very, very easy. Other things that also happen is I don't really even show people how to sprawl. But they get so good at it. It's so difficult to take the legs on anyone who has been doing this drill quite a bit. because they just kind of figure it out. And I think that's the common fallacy of just trying to teach too much technique, and instead of just drilling and practicing fighting for position, which is what we do on the ground most of the time anyway. I know I'm repeating myself here, but I think it's an important point. Now, one thing I'll add on a little bit later to this drill, usually after a few months of playing it, is to add kind of a mat, a play area, so to say. So I'll make a boundary on the mat, which is like in competition, you need to manage space and distance more than if you're just doing it on a big mat. And just to get people used to kind of sensing where they are on the mat, because this is super important when competing, that you know if you have a lot of space behind you or in front of you, especially when we're talking about takedowns and wrestling. You need to know where you're moving, where your opponent is moving, and where the space is to do that. So I start to do this a little bit later on, and even later on, usually after quite a long time, like 6 months or a year, I will start to slowly add takedowns. And I don't even need to tell them we're doing takedowns. All I have to do is just do the exact same drill, and then tell them that you can win by the inside control or lifting 1 or 2 legs, but you can also win by making the opponent's hip touch the mat for 3 seconds. And basically that's all I have to tell them. And if I tell them this is, if I add that rule, then takedowns happen. And it's not going to be pretty in the beginning, just like Jiu Jitsu. It's not pretty when you start rolling. And you can also see we have quite a few beginners in this class that I recorded. That they still have a lot to learn, and it looks a little bit awkward, but there's no difference between that and starting to roll on the ground. That also looks very awkward in the beginning, and you spend a lot of excess energy that you didn't have to. You tense all your muscles and all that, and you burn out really quick, but that's no different than on the ground. But to add takedowns, pretty much all I say is that just make their hip touch the mat for 3 seconds, and you also win. And if I play that a little bit, and if they feel comfortable with that, and I feel like they have a good enough base and understanding of things, then I'll keep doing. But I might take that rule out again if I feel like it was too much for them. But basically, I'll do that, and then in the corrections part, maybe I'll show a few details on how to finish one of the dominant positions. So let's say the front headlock. Like you see this guy in the orange dress card, he really likes to go for that front headlock position, and that's basically all he's been practicing, just to go for that. And what was that? Tried to lift the feet, but he accidentally took him down in a very pretty double leg. But if I can teach someone to get very good at getting to the front headlock position, then teaching them the takedown is just a matter of 10 minutes of correction in the class, and then we'll add that to the drill. But as you can see, this is a fun drill. We can do it for a long time, and people get an amazing workout out of it, and they also gain a lot of confidence, and also just the being confident in someone standing up and pushing and pulling you around and trying to keep your balance. Not just the takedowns part, but even just that, the energy that you have to sense, is something that takes practice. And you need people to spend a lot of time on this. And what I see from doing this drill and just doing it a lot, right now we just do it once a week. But people are so confident standing up. And the standing and the ground part of grappling, gi or no gi, just kind of flows together, and they don't really, even though they're all beginners, these are all white and blue belts, they don't act in a way like there's a difference for them if they're on the ground or standing up. And that's something I want to try and accomplish with my students, is that they're equally confident standing up or on the ground. It might not be super practical for IBJJF gi competition where you can pull guard, but for grappling for life, or for MMA, or for self-defense, or for anything else, I feel like this is a very valuable skill that might get lost a little bit in Jiu-Jitsu nowadays. So the only thing I would add here at the end is the importance of creating the right atmosphere for a drill like this. Many people are nervous about coming to a wrestling class, or they think they're going to get picked up and dumped on their head. Obviously that goes away after a little while, but I have to make this class fun for everyone. So I have to create a good atmosphere of where people have a good time. And at this point of this video, people are very tired, but I always make people trash talk and shout at each other and kind of pick one and coach them and try to make them win. But as you can see, this is like the end of the day and everybody's burned out. I play very loud music. Classic rock, it always works well for this. I encourage people to wear weird clothes, like dress up like some weird way for Saturdays. And this all helps to make this a super, super fun class. People know when they come, there's a warm-up. I teach them a little bit for 10 minutes and then we just play. And that just makes for a super, super fun training for everyone, and everybody loves it. So create that atmosphere. Also, it has to be kind of high energy, loud music, and that really helps to make this fun for everyone. And they will get a great workout out of this, both skill-wise, but also fitness-wise. It's an amazing workout. Hopefully this video could inspire you to do some more stand-up training with your team. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at any point. I'll be happy to share this drill, and this is something I really enjoy doing. Probably my favorite class of the week. And I'll leave it here, but I'll let the video play so you can enjoy a bit more of the class if you like. And thanks for watching and thanks for listening. I hope you found it useful.